All right. I will call this regular council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Dana, would you lead us in the pledge tonight, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a minute, please. Heavenly Father, it's fair time in our fair city, and we ask that you bless us all with good, fair weather. For not only all of our residents who spend time at the Hartford Fair in Croton, but also for our upcoming street fair. Lord, this is one of our largest community events that draws thousands from Licking County and counties beyond. We ask that you keep a watchful eye on our service groups, our church groups, our concessionaires, the Firefighters Association, and all who come in contact with the street fair and our very popular street fair parade. And we ask for all of this tonight in your holy name. Amen. Kathy, roll please.
Carter. Here. Walther.
Here.
Powell.
Here.
Barstow.
Here.
Hayes. Here. Picken.
Here.
Lee.
Here. Okay. We have a quorum present. Everybody's here. First thing on the agenda tonight, we have citizens' comments, and we have a presentation from Ed Bourne from the YMCA Western Branch on the renovation campaign presentation. Yes, sir. You want to bring the whole troops up, Deb and Dana, or you just want to?
Come on, Deb.
I'm good.
Just the ones with the badge. Good night, Mr. Maynard. Thank you for attending. We'll see you later. Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I approach the?
You sure approach the bench. You may approach the bench.
Dana, you have to stay there.
In support of
Used to that
Councilor
parole
Mr.
board,
Lee.
aren't you?
he was informing me of the
No.
informed me of the crisis out at the fair. Called no air conditioning.
Oh.
Look at that in extras.
Dana, give us your name and address, please.
Dana Moore, 162 Cumberland Way, Plattsburgh.
Ed, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Ed Bourne, CEO of the Licking County Family YMCA.
Give me an address.
101 Mark Drive, Newark, Ohio.
Very good, sir. How are you tonight?
Do it. I'm well, thank you. On behalf of our person back here, the chair for our capital campaign, Ms. Debbie Coleman, and Dana and myself, thank you for giving us an opportunity to enlighten you all the exciting things that are happening at the Western Branch YMCA and the YMCA as it is. We've had the opportunity to get a sneak tour and see Amazon, and we're meeting with a lot of people throughout the community. When I last spoke to you, I think we were at the phase of the community phase, and I'm happy to report that is continuing to grow. We're getting a lot of support, not only from I would say the eastern side, but the western side as well, and that's been the key. We still have some people we need to reach out to, and we have people on our committee that have people to make calls and then report back to us, not mentioning any names that are sitting close to me, and not making any steps of challenging those, but it's all about getting those names and getting those people to commit to what we want to do. As I hope you're well by the brochure and the information goes out, we're about at 2.3 of a 2.8 first phase campaign. A lot of, as again, feelers out there, and they're all good, but we're not there yet. As our plan, though, as soon as we can, we'd like to complete this by the end of the summer so that we can break ground and have the renovation started in early fall this year, and then have it completed by next year, early fall, depending upon weather and all that fun stuff. If we can have the blessings from the construction gods in the world, we'll be fine. But I think the next step, though, is, in all honesty, we're doing very well with that. We'd like to see, if you'll notice in your brochure, there's that second phase. I think it's about 1.1. And I have certain members of our committee and team that really would like to see us, as well as I would like to see us, and I know Lanier would like to see us get this gym to the next step. because that gym will allow us to do more programming, not only as it relates to the Y in general, but the community as a whole. I know Dana's having panic attacks when we get around to the daughter-daddy dance, and that space is going away, and there happens to be more children and granddaughters and more babies and everything else, so it's going to grow as this community is. So I think that's where we are. We're very excited. Again, Debbie, anything you want to add?
No, I'm good, and you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Coach. Any questions? This is good.
Anything for Ed?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd just like to say I've had the opportunity to spend some time with Ed over the last couple of weeks, and kind of been brought up to speed. Just what they're doing is amazing. I mean, you guys are busting your butts, and it's an awesome project, and no doubt in my mind it'll get done. We just got to rally. So
Rally troops,
we
yeah.
appreciate what you're doing. It's a great project. Again, no doubt it'll happen.
Well, thanks, Coach. I honestly, I tell you, I'm very pleased. It's not because of what any one individual does. It's all about one, and that means all of us together. We can't do it without the staff. I mean, Debbie's biggest excitement is when she said we went from about 147 people when we first started to over 2,000. And in light of that facility, just think when we get it all done, it would be a zoo. Kids everywhere. I want kids everywhere. I might add, how many got to be at the Zumba? We had the Zumbathon. Anybody participate in that? I didn't see any guys there other than me. That's good. Just checking. But once again, next time, I expect you there.
Well, and I know, Ed, that as I talk about Pataskala, I'm including this as I discuss the future and what's happening in Pataskala. And, you know, I think back to when I first started playing basketball, we were scrambling, and this was, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, we were scrambling for gym space. Everybody's always scrambling for gym space. You build a gym,
They will come.
they will come. It's crazy, so. Anything else for Ed and Dana and Deb?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll keep
We're not
spreading
there
the
yet.
word.
Thanks.
Oh, one more quick, you
No,
are
that's
setting
it, I'm
up,
done, I'm
you're
sorry.
setting up at the street fair, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll be at the street fair. Our Tank Stowe group's going to do a demo, and then one of our dance groups is gonna do a demo on Saturday, and then we'll be in the parade.
And I appreciate you showing up at the farmer's market too. There's been a lot of buzz with
That's
you
been
guys
fun.
there, so.
Yeah.
Good
And I'm
stuff.
hoping, Hartford gets all of the really nasty hot weather and we get a nice cool street fair.
I don't wish either. I'm non-biased in this.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other citizens' comments tonight? Anybody wish to speak? Seeing none. On the reports, well,
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, yeah.
Consent agenda, thank you.
Gave you your chance, Mr. Zetz. I did it on purpose. I should have poked you.
You should have.
Introduction, discussion, and approval of consent agenda matters.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Higgins. Seconded by Mrs. Hayes. Discussion and roll.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Consent agenda passes. On to reports. Mr. Hicken, what do you got for me?
You know what, Mayor, I don't have a whole lot, just, at the end, I would probably say something about street fair coming up, but
Yep,
other
me
than
too.
that, I
Very
don't have
good.
anything for the council as a whole.
Very good, sir. Mr. Zetz?
Nothing, Mayor.
Mr. King?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to mention a couple of pieces of legislation that are on tonight. First of all, just as an explanation, ordinance 2018-4324, it's a supplemental appropriation. And this is not an additional amount being spent above what council has already authorized through a supplemental previously for Columbia Road Bridge. Back in a month or so ago, we approved a supplemental for an additional change order to the Columbia Road Bridge. It was $35,000. At that time, we were still negotiating to see what the amount would be. As it turns out, it's $20,000 roughly that we owe in addition for the change order, $4,000 of which is our amount from the grant. So what this does is takes the money from the street fund capital and puts that $20,000 into the OPWC fund to pay this. That additional $15,000 that was appropriated through the supplemental will remain in the capital, cannot be used without us coming back to council for authorization. We don't anticipate using that for anything additional, and if we don't, it will just lapse and carry over for next year. So that is just moving already appropriated money into the correct fund to pay that OPWC bill. As kind of a partner legislation to that is Resolution 2018-039. When the Columbia Road Culvert contract was originally approved, it was originally approved by council for an amount of $179,000 and some change. With the change order, it took it up to, roughly $20,000 more. In order to keep all ducks in a row, we're asking for an amendment to that original council approval to account for that change order that has been essentially approved through the supplemental. That way we have a correct amount for the entire project approved by council. I do recommend approval of both of these, and I'm happy to answer any questions about those. I know it's kind of convoluted, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Andy?
Just, these are all for the same project, right? The
Both of
culverts,
these-
the culvert south of Mill.
Absolutely.
Okay, just
Yeah.
making sure.
This is culvert south of Mill that is OPWC funded
Gotcha.
and completed. We had the change order, so
I know we had several Columbia Road projects.
This is
all
the
the
same
same
one.
one.
Same one.
Gotcha.
It's the
Thanks.
one closest to your house.
It's the one
Yeah.
I travel over. Not I travel over.
Anything else for Mr. King? You got some more stuff for us?
That's all I have.
Any questions for BJ? All right, Mr. Nicholson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple things. Progress on the 2019 budget is moving on quite well. We've completed the 5-year revenue projections at this point, as well as updating the debt service schedule for the next 5 years. The CIP aspect of it is probably about 85% completed. We expect to receive the last bit probably by the end of the week, and can roll those into the operating budget. So we're on track and everything's coming along well. As you know, we issued a RFP for banking services that closed last Thursday. We received 3 proposals. So now I'm starting the process of slugging through, the voluminous submissions that we received from the 3. They were Park, Huntington, and Chase were the 3 banks that bid on the business. Finally, one other item. If you recall, I think it was in the latter half of last year, the first part of this year, dealt with the run-out claims, our health insurance run-out claims. When we left and went to this new consortium, we were responsible for the run-out claims, and we had pre-funded with a third party who was going to process those insurance claims. First week of July, second week of July, I reached out to them, and they said that the June 30th was the cutoff, and that the information was with their auditors being reviewed, and that they would let me know. I reached out to them earlier this week, and still earlier last week, and still haven't got a response back to where they are with that process, but I would anticipate we'll hear something probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks where we are. Having a conversation with BJ, I'm pretty comfortable that we're gonna end up in the black on that, only because I can't imagine that they would have been paying claims without seeking additional funding from us up front. So my guess is we'll probably end up receiving some funds back from that process, but until it's all said and done and all the paperwork is done, we won't know for sure, but I just want to let you guys know that's where we are in that process. That's all I have.
Yes, sir.
With that deadline and that audit report, are we then absolved from any possible paying of those, and I'm gonna call them tails, but that's not the right.
Well, it is a tail. Claims, and most of these, most of the claims would have been, if you went to the doctor, had a procedure, let's say in December, and it takes 2 to 3 months for it to work its way through the process. So we gave 6 months to give plenty of time for employees to resubmit claims if if a claim got processed incorrectly or denied because of a coding error, let's say. So it gave them up to 6 months to sort of re-get those processed. So yeah, as of June 30th, we would be done, and so whatever's left would come back to us.
Thank you.
Anything else for Jamie? Yes, sir.
Hey, Jamie, just a quick question on your, the financial update that you gave out. In the sewer operations fund, 651, the total expenditures that you have set out at $651,000, in round numbers.
Okay.
The question I have, you have some that are, something that we've already paid, and then you have some encumbered funds. And the encumbered funds seem like they're pretty high as far as, when you read through this, it sounds like the encumbered about $488,000 worth of encumbered funds. I know we're gonna be asked tonight regarding the new press, substantial cost. In those encumbered funds, is it something that you guys are looking at to see if those encumbered funds could be moved, or at least the purchase of whatever those are for, could be moved to 2019? Is that a discussion to be had?
If we felt that we needed to come up with funding, yes, we could do that. A lot of these, for example, the salary related, the encumbrance would be for the health insurance, the
Okay.
full year premium, so there's nothing we can do with those types of funds. Some of the others might be contracts that we've signed to do
Okay.
whatever, but to the extent that, you know,
They're not-
there is could be some flexibility where we do full year blanket POs, and maybe we have some capacity in those and can reduce those.
Okay, great, thanks.
I was just gonna say what he just said, that some of those are for beginning of the year, it's covering the entire year, so it is shown as an encumbrance, but it's not necessarily for a one-time purchase or project.
That's fine.
Anything else for Jamie? I just wanna, thank you for meeting with me this week,
Oh, my pleasure.
on the budget, and also, not that my picture's in there, but the, year-end report, is that being mailed out?
That has been mailed out, we sent it to every,
Excellent.
household in the city.
Excellent job, and will you have extra copies so I can take them to
Yep.
the trade show that
Jess
I'm going to,
will
and the
have
street
the
fair?
extra copies that
Okay.
we can bring to the street fair.
All right.
Yeah, we got one in the mail today. It's great, well put together, easy to digest for anybody.
That's
that
it,
reads,
it's,
so.
it's a recommended practice of the GFOA, basically taking the GAP, 200-page document and try to make it a little more friendly for the people to understand.
Yeah, appreciate it, good job. Yes, sir.
I know I didn't say that anymore, but I read in your report that you had talked about Rita sending out some letters. You had identified a significant number of taxpayers. Can you take me through, I just wanna know, typical letter? We noticed you didn't file. Please know that this is the website you can go to file.
Please contact us, basically. Basically the letter goes out requesting that you reach out and contact Rita to get this resolved. Because in some cases, they may have already had the taxes withheld, they just never filed. And so it's a simple matter of just filing the return, then you're in compliance. Some, you may end up actually, and we're working with them to make sure that the address database is correct. Because we found a few where they're actually in the township, but they weren't, but they have the tax mailing address.
So they weren't subject to.
We're just making sure that everything's clean.
What was that number, like 3,600 or something?
Yeah, like 3,600. Now, remember, if you recall, council specified early on that we didn't want to do it every year, like if you just didn't file last year, we're going to send out the letter. So these are people that have non-filed for 2 years. So the first year, if somebody doesn't file, we don't send those letters. We may reach out to them, but the official letter program, we waited for 2 years of non-compliance, and then we send out the letters.
I don't remember us not wanting to get in contact with them and letting it go for 2 years.
Well, when we did the subpoena program initially, and then we went through the process of having that conversation, that was the direction.
I just thought we were going with a less subpoena type deal.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
If you remember the subpoena flap. So, yeah, we decided at this point, but some people might have a reason for not filing in a year. Maybe there was an illness or something else that was significant, they just didn't do it. Yeah, so we would do it every 2 years. So 3,600 seems like a lot to me.
I would agree, that's what comes out.
Yeah.
3,600.
Jamie, is that, I mean,
That's the number they shared with me, yes.
3,600, I mean, if you're talking about a family of 4, that's, if everyone, just for example, represented a family of 4, that's basically everybody in the city.
Well, remember, let's say you have 2 wage earners in the same household,
Right.
that would be 2 independent returns. Could be joint, but it could be.
It just seemed,
Yeah.
even if it's half, it's.
And those are identified through the use of the, what they call FTI, Federal Tax Information.
Right.
Their department has access, and so basically they match up the federal data with addresses to the addresses that we have, and where they don't match up, that's where they generate the list to send the letters.
So if there's 3,600 and they're going to send a letter, what's the next contact we get from Rita? Will they get back with us and tell us, hey,
Yeah.
now it's down to 1,200, or?
They will work those letters through their compliance department, and then it's a program, and so when they get to the end of the program, I would imagine it'll probably go for 6 months to work those through, and they'll give me results of, these many people complied, filed, we received this much in income tax revenues, and these, so maybe some were not somebody who didn't need to file, and whatever.
And I'm not sure when we first had this discussion, when the subpoena thing happened, but is the number getting smaller and more controlled, or is it still kind of, 3,600 just seems like a lot?
Well, and remember, some of those could be from, they're not necessarily a new 3,600. It could have been maybe 2,000 people didn't reply.
All right.
And so now we have 2,000 of those plus some new ones, and so, yeah, they manage that list.
All right.
I was a little surprised by the number myself.
Yep. Thanks, Jamie.
Yep.
Anything else for Mr. Nicholson? Okay. Nate, what you got for me?
Yes, sir. Got quite a bit, actually. Let me first hit on the resolutions and then tell you some updates from the department. 3 resolutions tonight. One is for a new well and motor at Plant 2, groundwater well. It was about this time last year we replaced the other pump. Seemed to believe last year it was due to a lightning storm. This one, no explanation why, other than this pump manufacturer is no longer in business. So we're in the process of securing a new unit and upgrading that. So a little tee off with that. That's Mount Drilling is handling that. I think we did not to exceed 14,000. I think the pump purchase and motor and everything is high 11, but like last year there were some unknowns. I just wanted to leave a little wiggle room in there in case we found something outside of the ordinary with a non-existent manufacturer with putting in a new. Just planning for that, hoping for the 11,000. Today, Jameson Drilling is at Water Plant 1, has finally started the well cleaning process at that place, so that's going on there. Just wanted to give you an update with that. Another resolution is at Water Plant 1 with the high service pumps. We have 2 high service pumps that were put in with the 99 upgrade. One of the pumps, well, it's more than likely a bearing issue. It's inoperable at this time, but to properly service it, it has to be pulled. So we gotta take it out through the roof. You gotta have a big rigging unit to draw this thing out. One of the things that the EPA recommended in our last survey was to have a backup. So what we're gonna do, if approved, is go ahead and buy a brand new pump and motor and time that up to drop it in the same time that we were pulling the old, just to save a service trip. Then have the pump that's getting removed, which should be repairable, get it repaired and have it on the shelf ready to go if we get into a pinch. So we've got a redundant pump there. We had that extra week. I can't remember what I heard that one up for. Sorry, maybe just 28, 29,000, sound right? Anyhow, that's the installation costs and everything else. The other big one is an emergency purchase with MSD to buy a belt filter press for the wastewater plant. Our current unit is officially dead, well, without some major modifications. Part of our phosphorus study, that was one of the deficiencies in the plant that we identified, and this was something that we were going to plan for a purchase in 19. Because we budgeted $500,000 this year and planning to budget $500,000 next year to just kind of do all our purchases and construction at once to meet that phosphorus level. But we're at a spot now where we got to get a unit. The unit that we've selected, we did trial runs on 5 units, got price quotes from the 3 best, and you're presented tonight with the unit that is best for our operations with a price tag of $345,800, or I don't have it right from. Anyhow, emergency purchase because well, basically sole purchase. We're not going to put it out to bid. It's the one that we have a competitive price on, and start moving on that because time is of the essence. We get this ordered with your approval this week. We can have the machine by October. In between now and getting our new unit, we're going to prep the building to accommodate the new unit, get all our EPA paperwork done, and borrow a mobile unit from this company so we can stay in compliance. Yeah, again, we were hoping to get through 18, but it didn't happen. So if you have any questions on those, real quick, I'll also hit on, great news with Creek Road water line. With that in service, I think I put in the report the pressure positive changes we have seen. A static, gain of about 12 PSI on average, which is fantastic, let alone at the test point near Sugar Mill, at the Sugar Mill subdivision and Headley Mills Tower, area. We saw that 12 throughout the system. Since then, we sanitized and got Headley Mills Tower back online, and just as exciting as the PSI change, these towers are working together with each other. I think I've told you before where they were constantly fighting, and actually our system operated better with one of them offline, that's why we took Headley off. So, in addition, we've got an extra 200,000 gallons in the air, and they're moving up and down like good towers should, which is very exciting in the water world for us, because this is something we've been chasing for a long time. So I'd like to say at least we got creative with how we got that project done. The folks that we worked with that on were nothing but professionals. Their contractor some days had some issues, but overall, our approach with it worked. We're even more excited to see what we anticipated is better than what the model had said. So with that being said, we also got together with Strand last week. In the next couple weeks, we're going to go back to our physical testing points that we did with that modeling study, and we're going to collect that data like you would fire flow testing, so we can put it back into the model. So then that model is true to what our system is doing. So then next time we've got another decent sized development, or we have questions to say, can we simulate what it would look like if we put in a line from here to there? Just so we can make some more informed decisions moving into the future with growth and things like that. So very excited, all considering if it wasn't for our creative approach, it wouldn't happen this year because of budget limitations. So that being said, I'll also tell you next week, we're putting in the new booster pump at the booster station. That pump will give us an extra 100 gallons per minute, kind of help us with our high pressure system out there, just kind of filling our towers and meeting our demand out there. So from that aspect, even though there's been some challenges, some exciting things, I feel like I'm missing something else. But anyhow, if you have any questions, I know it's a lot, and a lot's happened since the last time we met, so please, if you have any questions. Oh, that's what I was gonna tell you, sorry. No, so when we did our EPA inspection, I meant to bring it in, but I didn't. So when we had our inspection in 2018, if you recall, they had 2 requirements, okay? So our inspection was January 23rd. We corrected these items by like February 12th. One of them was a conduit, and the other was basically paperwork from our chemical provider. I got a letter today that the EPA was satisfied with our response and glad that we communicated with them in a timely manner. Today is August 6th. So we're doing our part. So sorry to interrupt.
That's quite all right. Well cleaning, I saw the rig out there today. Is it just basically re-drilling it?
No, well, first step, we pull everything out, kind of look at the pipe, gives us an opportunity to look at the pump and motor. We do this every 4 years, so if there's any physical signs of wearing or failure, we can at least plan for it. And with professionals in the loop saying, maybe we could get another year out of this pump, at least plan for it. There's something else I gotta tell you about that. Anyhow, they pull it out, and then what we do, it's almost a plunger effect. You have the option with some companies want to do air shock. There's opinions either way, but basically it's a plunger style system that just kind of work that well and also clean the screen and kind of push and draw and really test the not security, but the integrity of the actual well itself. And so if everything looks good, we send a camera down there, look at the screen, look at the pipe, everything looks good, put it back together, and then do a chemical treatment to kind of remove some scaling, deposits, things like that. Disinfect it, do some tests, put it back online, then go to the next, and just keep moving until all 4 of them are done.
Very good.
It's a preventative thing. But it's good because if we don't pull them and look, you don't know. And then just like plant 2, even though we did We did well cleaning in, so 15 in plant 2. We've had both wells fail since then, so even Best Lake plant. So part of that, one more thing. Next year, what we're gonna do with the budget, we've got most of all our capital stuff is done. One of the things that we're gonna do in 19 that I'm gonna talk about at the utility meeting, but we didn't have a chance, is just to plan and budget and have capital funds set aside for pump and motors. You guys have seen so far this year, and then the backup pump that we've purchased. Much like our meter fund, where we constantly have a fund year to year to pay and change it, we're gonna do the same thing with pump and motors for the water and sewer department. That way, we've got a fund that we're continuing to use to not necessarily draw from the operational expense, and then that way we've got money set aside just for those categories. And just because of what we've gone through this year with everything else, it would just be a nice piece of security to know that we've got that to work with. And if we don't spend it, we don't spend it, but at least we're prepared with that in place, so that's it.
Anything else for Nate? Yes, sir.
Nate, just one quick question on the Creek Road project.
Yes.
The letter that we received from the subdivision association, I think it was the subdivision association, have you reached out to any of them to see if they've actually experienced better water pressure? You know, we had heard that sometimes they didn't even have showers that operated. Have we heard anything from any of the people that came in and talked with us?
We, throughout the process, there was a point of contact that I've always had, so I updated this gentleman when we were gonna do the project, and then I'm gonna follow up what we find and so on. So I've been keeping him in the loop, what we've found, and we haven't had any responses from anyone else, but we have communicated to him what we're seeing and updating him too, about the idea of putting the tower online and then retesting the model and getting all our same sample sites. But there hasn't been, I haven't crafted a letter to send out to them to say it's done yet. I kind of used him as a vessel into the HOA to kind of communicate that we've done everything within our power.
If I might, I believe he said he would talk to the HOA at their next meeting, and that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Also say there's a woman, with the HOA that Tommy and Scott and I've met with, who has also been a point of contact, and I've kept her updated on all of this, and I know she shared it with their, residents, and I haven't heard anything back, but I've sent several correspondence. Very appreciative of hearing about it, but haven't heard any. Asked her to let me know if there were any increases or anything, I haven't heard anything.
We haven't got any calls for, ouch, the shower's hurting me call,
It's too much pressure.
Yeah, so we haven't got that, so maybe it's not, at least in the data loggers that we use in that process, like I said, in both locations, we collected data, 7,000 minutes worth, and great thing with that, it's checking the pressure, but also the outside temperature. And so you can see the relationship too between water usage during really, really warm, when it hit 93 degrees, and then, when it kind of got cool there for a little bit, so you can see the relationship there. But even with that, when we did it at Sugar Mill, we had a high spike, which we didn't see before. It was in the 70s, like high, and the lowest, I think, was like 51, I think, on the graph. Headley Mills was more like 48, but even the lowest of the low during that hot demand time, where I was still seeing a 51 static. Not bad, but not coming right out of the plant type of pressure, but better.
Anything else for Nate? Thank you, sir. The world of utilities. Alan, what you got for me?
Thank you, Mayor. We had the bid opening for the ramp on July 12th. Had two bids, one from Decker and one from the Shelley Company. Shelley Company was once again the low bidder. They came in under 10% over the engineer's estimate, $627,000. So we've got a resolution on tonight with 3-7 to award to the Shelley Company. Recommend moving forward with that. Looking forward to working with them again. Along with that, we have resolution 038 on for tonight for award of inspection on the ramp project to Prime Engineering. They've done a lot of our inspections and continue to do an outstanding job for us, and I'd like to see that one approved as well. Tornado sirens, quick update on those. We plan to observe them the first Wednesday of every month when they go off. However, this month they set them off remotely, so the ours didn't go off. Last month, that first Wednesday was on 4th of July, so not sure if they went off because we had nobody here. And then the Wednesday in June, they were once again set off remotely, so those didn't go off. So I've called Lincoln County EMA and said, hey guys, we haven't been able to observe these in the past 3 months. Can we do a special test? So we're gonna plan for probably next week. I'm waiting for a call back from the gentleman I have to coordinate that with. And they will post notice on their social media. We will get that notice from them, put that out, make sure we do it on a clear day, and let everybody know that we're gonna test those so we can observe them and make sure everything is functioning well. 2 other things with that. One, when we did our initial test earlier this year, we found that the Mink Street garage siren was not working. It is still not working. The parts have been on order for months. They're supposed to be in mid-month, so we anticipate that one being operational here in the very near future. And then a question was asked some time ago about what happens when they set these off remotely. How would ours go off? And I asked that question of Lincoln County EMA, and they said, well, it would have to be it would be a very unlikely event because their whole main system would have to go down for that not to go off. However, next year they're going to have a backup station set up, so even in the event that that main station went down, there would be a backup station. So it's very unlikely it would happen, but we're only going to be dealing with that situation for the next 4.5 months. So shouldn't be a problem is what they told me. Don't have much better to go off on that.
So ours used to go off at 12:15 every Wednesday, and now they're not.
I heard it last Wednesday.
Well, you probably heard the ones in the surrounding areas. I could hear the ones in the surrounding areas, but we had guys on site on all of ours, and none of ours went off.
Yeah, I could hear the one in Reynoldsburg the other day, but none of ours, so.
Right. So,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. When you say they set it off remotely, I mean, was there a guy over in Newark with a remote? That's, I mean, what
I'm not sure where their primary station is, but Heath is their backup station. And the
do you
Heath
mean,
station
what does it mean
cannot
you set them off
control-
remotely? I don't
Somewhere else other than here is where they're
Right,
setting them off.
they typically set
Well,
them
then-
off
then
from
they-
the main station.
Then they don't work. I mean,
Well, they work, it's just if they have to, it's the backup doesn't work.
okay, no, wait, wait a minute, just a second. You said that they set them off remotely. So is there a way to set them off directly? I mean, can somebody go out and?
So normally they set them off from their main site.
Okay.
2 to 3 times a year, they set them off from their secondary site, which is in Heath. At Heath, when they set them off, they will not control ours because they're a different brand. For whatever reason, I don't know why it was set up that way, that's just how that is. So it's the backup system that isn't working in that situation. Primary still works, they're just using their backup. And once again, like I said, that's gonna be changing at the end of the year where their backup system will still operate ours.
Mrs. Carter?
So when they use their backup system, ours don't work?
Correct.
But when they use their main system, ours work?
Correct.
Wait, okay.
But we don't have any way of testing or knowing if they work.
Not unless they set them off, which is what we're gonna try and do next week to make sure that everything's working.
Okay. Is that clear as mud, everybody?
Well, yeah, I mean, that does not. I mean, has the EMA offered any explanation as to why setting them off from the Heath station?
Like I said, it's because we have different controllers and for whatever reason it won't set off the Wayland, which is what ours are, their Waylands. It will not set those off. I don't know why exactly, other than that they won't set those off.
But if they set it off from the main office in Newark, it works.
Correct. So the main system's working. Just the back.
It's disturbing to me that we can't test or hear our sirens every Wednesday.
Yes.
When they set it off from the backup station.
We have no way of setting
2 to
off
3
our
times.
sirens.
I have one more question.
Yes.
So, because, I just listen to the sirens and go to the basement. I don't know how they operate. So when there is a storm, it's typically the EMA that sets it off from the main station.
Correct.
And our sirens go off, right?
Correct.
So if there's a big storm, but they set them off from their backup station, our sirens don't go off, is what you're saying? But that's only a
Correct.
situation we're gonna be in for possibly the next 4 months.
Correct.
Which that's, that's what they say, so ideally that's a year.
And it's highly improbable, like, their system, and they would have to be completely wiped out from the main station, so that would be I don't know, a tornado go through and completely wipe it out kind of scenario.
Mr. King?
I was just gonna, and he just hit on it, that is if their main station something was to happen to it, go out or whatever, then they'd go to their backup to set them off.
Or if their main station needed parts that were on back order that they couldn't
Very
get.
likely. I mean, that certainly is a possibility. If the main station had issues, it wouldn't, the remote right now would not set them off.
I mean, I hate to, this is, I don't think this is beating a dead horse. I think this is a very serious issue. I mean, if Chief Brooks told us that they couldn't operate the sirens on their police cars, I think we'd have a real problem. This is something that I think that we need to get up on this isn't us, this is, and Sir, you're looking at me like I'm crazy. This is not, just a minute, sir. This is a community, we don't have tornado sirens just for fluff, okay? They're here for a very important reason. That is to protect the citizens of this community from a tornado or other severe weather. And if they don't go off, people aren't going to be aware. So I think this is an issue that the city needs to get with the EMA and say, hey, you need to get this fixed. And this is not a quizzical look, Barstow, you're crazy moment. If we have a tornado that comes through here, this is the height of thunderstorm and bad weather season. If we have a tornado that comes through here and people don't get warned because we weren't on top of getting our sirens fixed, shame on us.
Totally agree.
My quizzical look, do we have backups on the sirens for the cars? If the
Yeah,
backup-
we can-
Be a
we
smart ass,
certainly-
sir. Go out in the hallway and discuss it, all right?
We certainly will be following up with the EMA, thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Barstow.
All right. Mr. Fulton, what do you got tonight?
Thank you, sir. With the comprehensive plan, we're having a second public input session that will be held at COTC this Wednesday from 6 to 7:30. Also, we have hired the new city planner. He started on July 23rd. His name is Jack Kuntzman. He was previously the zoning officer with the village of Plain City. We'll have him at the next council meeting on the 20th for an introduction. And also, one of his first tasks to familiarize himself with some of the developments that are going on is to redesign the development update portion of the staff report. So that way it'll provide a more thorough explanation and kind of a real time of where we are with everything. So that will be one of his first tasks to get that squared away. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anything for Scott?
Yes.
I just wanna let you know that I have been, spreading the word about this week's meeting, knocking on a few doors. BJ, I've talked to a number of the HOA folks, through email, and I had somebody tell me, oh yeah, I got your stuff on my mailbox the other day. I was like, what does it look like? I didn't do that. So the HOA people were sharing my information and actually going out and putting them on people's doors. So
That's great,
hopefully
Ken.
we have a good turnout and
Excellent.
really good push in the survey.
Excellent, thank you.
Fingers crossed.
And we have, last check-in I got from the consultants, we have a total of 517 respondents to the survey. And the survey will close, I believe, August 20th.
That's crazy. We have 15,000 people in this city.
Well, with surveys, I think from a statistical analysis, they say you need about at least 30% to get a representation of the whole. So we're over 30%. So hopefully we can get more in the interim, but it's kind of, that's where we are
Well,
at
I'm
that
knocking
point.
doors, so if I have to sit with them at their computer while they fill it out, I promise I won't influence them. But, I'll hang out with them for a minute.
I just wanna add something there, though. When you say 15,000 residents, that's men, women, and children. So,
Sure.
I wanna say when we get 500 back, out of roughly how many households? Cause I wanna get that number. I think that number's not bad to start with something like that. But, I mean, we're not sending them to 15,000 people. We're sending them to how many houses?
Right.
We sent them to all registered voters within the city with the postcard. So offhand, I don't know exactly how many houses that was.
About 3,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 4,500,
Okay.
4,500, 5,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Hmm?
Anything else for Scott? Oh, did you have something, Mr.
I
Barstow?
wanted to, I had some of my neighbors talk to me about not having trouble finding the survey on the website, and now I see that has been improved and it jumps right out at you.
Yeah, it's been, from day one, it's been right in that main spot.
I had a lot of folks in my neighborhood say that
I remember talking about that,
they
yeah.
could not find it on
It got
the
corrected
webpage,
pretty
but I
quickly.
think it got
Yeah,
fixed,
it
so
did. It did.
how, whatever format.
We'll
fashion.
continue to advertise it other ways
Yeah,
too.
yeah, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Barstow makes an important point because, I mean, I'm not necessarily proud to say that it wasn't just but a short time ago that I realized if you scroll down, there was a whole bunch more stuff at
Yeah.
the bottom of the screen. Where I'm like, there's just a bunch of little links. What kind of crap is this? It's like, oh, look, it's all at the bottom. So maybe there should be stuff for people like the, you know, look, scroll down, arrows or something.
Yeah,
So-
cause I think it's in the bright
Trumpets.
pink box.
Trumpets, you know, something.
I think that's what people were talking about. I confess I haven't taken the survey.
Mr. Barstow.
Everybody, right now.
But you still have 3 more weeks.
Officer,
so-
remove this man.
But I think I'm fairly outspoken, so but no, I mean, I think maybe that's what the problem was, is people were telling me that they saw it, but then they couldn't access the survey, so what Mrs. Carter is saying,
Okay,
we'll see.
so they were able to find it on the website, but they
then they
couldn't see
couldn't-
the link
They
to
couldn't
click?
manipulate to get into the survey itself.
Okay, so there should be, what I'll do is I'll follow up tomorrow and see if we need to make the link bigger or what we need to do to make it a little bit clearer at this point.
And then we can always let Jess know, right, that, you know,
Oh, yeah, we continue to advertise it,
Yep.
so. Yep.
very good. Anything else for Scott tonight? I just wanted to ask you a quick question on that. What's the next step on this rezoning application?
Which, the one that's
The
first
one that was
reading?
tonight, the one that was tonight. What's the next step?
We do the 3 readings and then, so it'll be the first reading this evening,
It'll be scheduled for a second on August 20th.
20th.
It's the first, ordinance.
4322.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't want, okay, the zoning number was 007. This is okay, gotcha. Thank you very much. Lanier, what do you got for me, sir?
Got a few things on my list today, Mayor. Happy to say that our Parks Month, July, was pretty successful. We had multiple events that went on. Community Garden Forum went well, that was mid-month. And the first movie that we had in the city at Freedom Park, thank you, Melissa, for coming out and supporting. It was a good turnout. I think we had a little over 100 people there. Had multiple people state that they would like to have more next year, so that'll be on the list. I also would like to touch on Licking Park District. BJ and I met with the director over there, Rich Campitelli, to discuss the property that they own behind or off of Mill Street behind our property that annexes Carr Park. We're gonna start discussing possibilities of creating a multi-use trail or a pathway, either to link that property from Mill Street to Municipal Park, or just utilizing that property in general, because the last 5 years, or the 5 years that they have coming up, they don't have anything on their capital's budget to do anything with the property, so we just initiated that conversation to figure out what they're planning to do with it. And other than that, that's what I have on my agenda today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, your water barrel deal was also very successful.
It was sold out.
And so was your fishing.
Yep.
Cool stuff that you're adding to the Parks and Recs. Thank you very much, sir. And your movie night was cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, weather-wise, you had a great evening also.
Full moon, stars were out.
Yeah, kids
Peter
wrapped
Rabbit
up
was
in
funny.
blankets. Yeah, perfect. Yes, sir.
So sorry I missed the movie night, I was out of town, but I wanted to ask you, did you end up selling popcorn or did somebody?
Bremen Bank, they were our night sponsor, so they came out on the night and they had bagged popcorn. We did a raffle for a few blankets that they brought out as well, and they also passed out water. So we had something there for the participants to munch on. Also saw people bring their own big white bowls of popcorn, so people actually brought pizza, they actually brought their own food to enjoy the night, so it was actually pretty,
A lot of
it was
pizza.
nice.
A lot of pizza. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
I'll just say, Lanier, I haven't seen you since, and I'm really excited to tell you, that was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
You know, it was actually a little bit chilly,
Mhm.
so my family thought I was crazy when I had on a sweater and jeans, but they were cold. So, but we did the same thing. I was not, and I didn't even give them
And
my
you didn't
sweater
say
either.
anything about that at all, did you?
No, I didn't. But we did. We brought our own popcorn, and it was a lot of fun. And the movie was cute, because I have to tell you, when you first said we're going to be watching Peter Rabbit, I was like, oh, crap. But it was actually really funny.
It was a good movie.
Yeah, it was cute. So I was pleasantly surprised. So good job. I
So
look
what
forward
she's
to
saying
it.
is that she thought you were crazy at first.
Yep.
And then
Not
later-
about the movie, just your movie choices.
That's what I was saying.
Let the record note that Mrs. Carter does not like rabbits.
Yep.
That's not.
Did you have another question?
I do have a follow-up question, and it's, and it might be for Mr. King as well, and it's just, the Park District, not ours, the
Mhm.
counties, do they own any other properties in the city?
They do not, it's just the one back here, and part of our conversation was with them was the fact that residents here pay into the levy
There
for
we go.
Parks District.
That was my follow-up question.
And,
Yep.
we have not seen anything from them. As we talked to this guy, he's newer, and he wasn't real sure even where it was. And we emphasize the fact that that's part of the frustration, is that people pay into this and we don't see anything. It seems to be very Newark-centric when we're looking at this stuff. So he was very open. Also talked about some programs that we could potentially partner with them with, provided in some of our other parks, whether it's canoeing safety and fishing stuff, stocking ponds, that sort of stuff. So it was productive, and I'll take him in his word that he's interested in partnering with us to do stuff.
Thank you, that was indeed my follow-up question, so I appreciate you guys doing this.
And that piece is undeveloped, right?
Totally undeveloped.
And it's just wooded right now.
Okay. Mr. Walter, I believe they actually farm it. They have it under contract for farming, but regardless, I have a different question. As far in, Lanier, these are great ideas and a lot of good stuff here. Is this stuff all being vetted through the park board, or are we gonna get, for instance, the bathroom, the tank at the Foundation Park? Is this something that we're gonna get a recommendation from the park board, or?
Well, BJ might be able to answer that.
Absolutely. This is
Okay.
on our agenda to talk to them about in their August meeting. Has been shared with all the Parks Board members as well, the options that I shared with you guys. So this is on our August meeting agenda, and we'll be coming forward with a recommendation from the board.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Two things I'll add to that I've sat through a number of lengthy park board meetings over the past month, so we've talked about everything in the park, so those things have been discussed. And the Licking Park District, that is a pet peeve of mine, because our residents often confuse that with, that they believe that those levy monies are going into our parks, which is part of, our struggles in getting our parks funded here. So they have stood before us. I've been participating in the park board for a number of years, and stood before us several times and talked about a trail and other things while, and nothing comes to fruition. So I would really like to see that, somebody stay on top of that, and so we can at least, our residents can see some return on their.
We'll be walking the property. We're gonna wait till some of the vegetation goes down a little bit, and we're planning to walk the property and discuss a lot more, and to link up for the Clean Ohio Trails grant, hopefully.
Just got one more thing.
Go
I
ahead.
think actually in the past, the park board has actually laid out a trail to utilize that district ground, so.
That's
maybe
what I've been
already
using.
Already being used, good.
Yep.
Great.
Mr. King?
I was just gonna say, in addition to just that property, Lanier's reaching out to their program manager to see, like I said, what other stuff they can provide here in the city, in our parks, that we can partner with them.
Because that trail back there is, that would be nice, but that fits one spot.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that can be done across the city.
Yep.
Like you said, stocking ponds, that's a great idea. Sarah somebody did, so, thank you.
All right. Chief Brooks?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. Our newest officer, Abby Schaefer, started today. We'll start seeing her around town. And then I just ask that you keep Shirley Neal's family in your thoughts and prayers. Shirley was the president of our PCB AAA. She passed a week ago, and her husband Mike and daughter Lisa are still on our board, and Shirley was the kind of lady who showed up at our events with even when her legs quit working, and her personal golf cart to man a post. So she was a special lady.
Anything for Bruce? Yes, sir.
Chief, I know we had an officer who was injured in an automobile accident. Is he doing okay?
He is doing okay. He has a couple broken knuckles, but he's on the mend.
Good, okay. I just saw that on Facebook and that it happened and I did, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything else for Bruce? Ready for street fair?
We're getting there. Yeah. Busy week, but we're preparing.
And you can get Abby in here some council night to stop in and introduce herself.
Working on it.
And also Mr. Hendricks
Yes.
when he's available.
Yes.
All right, committee chair reports, anything? Yes, sir.
We did have a finance committee meeting last Monday, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that Jamie touched on some of the things. I think probably the big thing we talked about was the audit. That's the new requirement in the charter. And that's sort of still a work in progress. Mr. Walter brought some materials in that we've looked at. We've sent those on to Julian and Group for them to take a look at to see what we can do. We think that we can come up with a format that we can satisfy, that the auditors can perform, and that will satisfy the requirements of the charter. So I think that was, Jamie, I think other things either you or BJ touched on during your reports. That was the main topic. That was our biggest discussion. So we don't have any recommendation. We're still in the process. The good news is we don't have to do that until, that doesn't really have to be done until, I think, until 2023, I believe, Jamie, something like that. We have a number of years, but we don't want to wait until 2022 to come up with an idea. So expect something from us maybe later on this year. My fellow finance committee members, I think maybe later on this year, I think we're going to have something for council to look at. So just anticipate that. Thanks. That's all I have.
Anything for Mr. Barstow? Okay, any other committee chair reports? Yes, sir, Mr. Hicken.
Yes, as Mr. Cooey mentioned, we did have a utility committee meeting tonight. It was almost a bit of an emergency basis, as is the purchase of the press for the water reclamation plant. I will say a couple of things. We did ask him some questions. We asked him about whether or not the PTI, do you ever worry buying this and then having to get the PTI? He would not. This council should know that with the purchase of this press, it looks like, if you remember, we talked about widening or lengthening the building that the press sits in. This press would not need to do that. It's a 20-year press. The best I could glean from the way the utility committee went was possibly the press that was already there may not have been the best one for the volume or what we were asking it to do. The new press that is on the agenda tonight we hope, is. And the utility committee did pass a motion to recommend approval of the purchase of the press this evening. And it took every bit of the half hour for the most part to talk about that. So that's all we had to talk about.
Anything for Tim? Okay, any other committee chair reports? All right, unfinished business, let's table. New business, ordinance 2018-4322 for first reading.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2018-4322, this is the first reading, and ordinance to rezone the property located at 12164 Broad Street, parcel number 063-142278-00.000, totaling .89 plus or minus acres in the city of Pataskala from medium density residential district R20 zoning classification to the general business district GB zoning classification.
Discussion, yes, sir.
Just a quick question for Scott, just to make sure I'm clear on this. The owner of this parcel hasn't brought a plan to you yet. This is just
Correct.
like preliminary zoning, essentially. He wants to rezone it for something that might happen in the future, is that correct?
Correct. At this point, it's just changing the color on the map. So
Okay.
should he wish to redevelop it, he would have to submit plans and go through permitting and things like that. But at this point, it is what it is.
Which, just follow up, which he could do without that zoning in place and then get it rezoned, is that correct? I mean, if he brought in a plan for a car, lot,
If
it'd
he
just
brought
be,
it-
it'd be an item that he'd have to go do is get it rezoned as GB.
Correct. I mean, he could do the plan concurrently with the rezoning, although it's not a planned district. He could do that. But at this point, it's essentially just changing the color on the map. And with the GB, with the varying uses, a lot of what he would need to do would be covered depending upon what use and where things would be located. So there's a lot of variables in terms of what use and how that would be approached at this point.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other discussion? Ordinance 2018-4324 for a first reading.
So moved.
So, moved by Mr. Hicken,
I'll second again.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Kathy, when you're ready.
Ordinance 2018-4324, this is the first reading, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2018.
Discussion? Okay, on to resolutions. Resolution 2018-034, resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute a contract with Mount Water Well Drilling for the purchase of a new pump and motor for well number 2 at the water treatment plant number 2.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Powell. Discussion? And roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2018-035, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to execute a contract with Buckeye Pumps, Inc. for the purchase of a new high-service pump and motor at the water treatment plant number 1.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Lee. Discussion?
Nathan, I know you mentioned it, but this, you do have this money available to you. This is
Yep.
I guess that's a Jamie/Nathan question, but, okay.
It'll
It'll make our rest of our year a little more tight,
Lean.
but,
Well, between the 3 purchases
we,
tonight.
oh yeah, we'll make
At
it.
least 1 sewer and 2 are water.
Any other discussion? And roll, please.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2018-036, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Robertson Construction for the repair and/or replacement of the city administration's buildings, entryways, and decorative columns.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion? And roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
No.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2018-037, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to accept the bid of and enter into a contract with the Shelley Company for the construction services for the 2018 ramp program.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Carter,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Walter. Discussion and roll.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2018-038, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to enter into a contract with Prime Engineering to provide construction, administration, and inspection services for the 2018 roadway improvements program, better known as the ramp.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a quick question, Alan. Last year, Prime did ours last year, correct?
Correct.
And they had a contract. Would they, do you remember offhand what that contract was for the amount it was for 2017?
The amount was for, I think, around 25 or 30,000, and we only ended up using about 12,000.
That's what I was gonna ask. I remembered it being higher last year. Okay.
It was, so, yeah, they.
And this
brought it
is an
down.
hourly rate that they use until, okay, correct, thank you.
Anything else? Kathy, roll please.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 2018-039, a resolution amending section 1 of resolution 2017-052, and increasing the contract amount for the Columbia Road Culvert Replacement Project.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Carter. Discussion? And roll.
Walter,
Yes?
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Resolution passes, and thanks again for your insight on explaining that. Appreciate that. Resolution 2018-040, a resolution authorizing and directing the city administrator to make an emergency purchase and installation of a BDP Industries belt filter press from MSD Environmental Services for use at the water reclamation facility.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hicken,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Hayes. Discussion? And roll.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Resolution passes. Any motions tonight? All right, additional citizens' comments. Anybody wish to speak about anything that we've discussed here tonight? Seeing none,
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Hicken.
I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G3 for a conference with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Invited into the executive session is B.J. King, City Administrator, Police Chief Brooks, and Brian Zetz, Law Director.
Got a motion?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Hayes. Discussion? This will be upstairs. Roll call, please.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Hicken,
Yes?
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Okay, executive session at 8:09. Upstairs, folks. Need a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Carter,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Powell.
Hayes,
Yep. Yes.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Barstow,
Yes.
Out of executive session at 8:39. We'll go roundy round. We'll start with Mr. Lee.
What? Really? I have nothing other than I hope that the power is back at the fair when I return here shortly.
That'll be an interesting evening, won't
Yes, it will be.
it? Mr. Powell?
I have nothing.
Mr. Walther?
I just wanted to mention that for the last couple, well, at least the last month, we've had a newsletter that went out called the PRA Pataskala Pool Pitch. And it basically gives a schedule for everything that's happened down at the pool. I just wanted to mention a couple things for August. We have the soccer team practicing. It's the Southwest Licking soccer team is practicing at the pool. So they're doing swimming, they're doing exercises in the pool. Apparently it will help their soccer. I haven't gone down and seen it. I'm anxious to see that one. The volleyball team is also practicing at the pool. But the nice thing about this, it does go through and talks about, we finished up all of our swim lessons. yesterday. And with that, we had over 550 swim lessons this year. So it's a great, it's about communication, and it's just communicating to anybody who wants to get on and look at the newsletter. So yeah, I thought it was very interesting to bring that up, that we've got a couple other athletic sports utilizing the pool. That's all I have.
Mr. Zetzke, anything?
No, I do not.
Well, we're just heading into street fair, so we won't have a meeting before then, so hopefully, everybody will come down and spend some time with the street fair and, enjoy the street fair parade, and, had a very nice discussion tonight, with a very nice Oriental couple that, thought the farmer's market was at my house. And, so they pulled up the driveway when they saw my farmer's market sign on the yard, and, we had a very nice conversation. They just moved to Pataskala, so, yeah.
Your house was a farm market.
Yeah, 'cause they had the farmer's market signs in there, so. Very nice folks, and I welcomed them to Pataskala and told them where the real farmer's market was. Mr. Higgin.
I got a couple. The first one is kind of a mea culpa. I did not help Mrs. Carter with the canvassing of the people for the thing, and I offer my sincere apologies for that. I said I would help, and my wife went half crazy. This next one's for Mr. King, and I don't know if it's possible. It's just an idea. Putting dollar amounts on our legislative agenda where you describe the resolutions.
Absolutely.
Just a thought.
Dollar amounts and whether or not it is part of the approved budget.
Yeah, couldn't hurt. I caught myself looking a couple times, and before I forgot, I wanted to say something about
Thank
that. Good luck to all the citizens and the police and the fire department and the people that are gonna be participating in the street fair. Let's hope it's safe and there's no bad things happen. It's fun for the whole family, so. And that's all I have.
Mr. Barstow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. Again, I look forward to spending some time at the street fair this year. That's always a lot of fun. Get to see a lot of people and have a good time. It's a great community event. On a negative note, this evening I was disappointed with the city's lack of reaction to the gas line rupture at the Mink Street crossing. I realize that I'm not sure exactly when it was reported, but it caused a huge problem in the city. And a couple things to remember, that a lot of our citizens, myself included, don't work here in the city. We work other places and we have to commute. And another thing, a lot of us use Broad Street. The streets other than Broad Street, such as Mink, Refugee, are not suited for the volume of traffic. They're not wide enough for the volume of traffic that comes on Broad Street. The intersections are not properly regulated for that type of traffic, and I can tell you it caused a huge mess, east and westbound in the city. And I think we need to think about what we do when we have a major intersection that becomes blocked. The way it was set up, you were forced to go down Mink, and then you could continue south on Mink, but when you got to Refugee, that was a big mess because that intersection's just stop signs on Refugee. I wanted to go then obviously eastbound on Refugee. When you get to the Parkway, then the Parkway there's no stop sign there, and you were forced to go north or south of the Parkway because Refugee is closed eastbound from that point. And so there was traffic backed up. It was just solid. All I could think about was trying to get in and out of the Hartford Fair. That's what it looked like. Narrow road, lots of traffic. So it just for whatever reason, it just was not good. So I think we need to look at maybe our contingency plans when that type of thing happens, so that we have something to because there was no police presence on the roads that I traveled. So I went down Mink to Refugee to Parkway up to Broad. Once you got up to Broad Street, it was fine. So
What was our response?
Unfortunately, at that time, we had an injury accident down on Broad and Taylor, and then we had a drunk individual yelling out obscenities at Kroger. So we were all busy.
Right, and I'm not, I think that the contingency would be what happens if we have this and our department's tied up, or it's a really heavy time, can we reach out to the sheriff's department, the state patrol, to other police agencies?
We did, but
They were,
sheriff's office is in shift change at that time, so all their guys are coming from Newark, and they didn't have anybody.
okay, all right. It just seemed like, it was really.
It was bad
It
timing.
was really awful, yeah.
But Bruce and I will talk about plans for when, anytime we have those on major routes, 16, 310.
Just something to look at. I understand that now that I know more about it, it appears that it was just a perfect storm of, we just didn't have anything going on, or we couldn't get anything going on, but just so you know, it really, as you can imagine, it became pretty bad pretty quickly with that volume of traffic. It was, to me, it was about between 5 and 5:30. I think I got here about 5:45, so. Just FYI. Thanks. I'm less disappointed than I was before.
Mrs. Carter.
On that note, I just want to bring council up to speed on some things that have been going on the west side of town. BJ's certainly sick and tired of hearing from me. Lee Conkle's not fond of hearing from me lately either. So, basically, it's ironic that Mr. Barcer used the word perfect storm, because that's exactly what's happened on the west side of town. So Cleveland and Meeker closed. Now, keep in mind, the high school's kind of isolated. District office is at the opposite end of Summit, so everything going on out there. Summit is now closed down to one lane the majority of the day for water line installation from the district. And construction started for the Taylor Road Trail, on Taylor Road. So all of the arteries from the north or south, or however you wanna look at it, through that direction, are bad. My biggest issue has been that I get that we're at ODOT's mercy, and that when they decide to do a project, that's it. But what we have gotten is zero communication from the water district, and I'm over it. So they say they're gonna shut Summit down to one lane, when I'm sitting there watching them dig the middle of the damn road out for 30 minutes in the traffic, in the middle of the day at like 2 o'clock. And so I'm trying to get back out to the high school, and when they finally do open it, I've been there for 30 minutes. I quit counting the cars, cause they let the southbound traffic come first. I quit counting at 30. I mean, there had to be 40 plus cars that just kept coming. And as I'm sitting there, my phone was blowing up. People are livid. So you can't get through Mink, you can't get down Summit, cause they just randomly close it whenever they choose to. And then, you've got some construction going on Taylor now. That's not as bad, it's off to the side of the road, but it still slows you down a little bit. Our representative, not one phone call. In fact, the email I got from him was snide about the whole deal. Nobody authorized closing down the entire road. Nobody even knew what was going on. And from all the information I've received, that's not the first time that's happened. So this has been on a number of occasions where they were trying to get across that road, that part of the roadway on Summit, and have the whole road closed down. So when you add to the lack of communication on Friday morning, when you come to the high school and there's a tag on your front door of the high school that says we're gonna not give you water all next week on the Friday before. Now, Lee will tell you, we told somebody Thursday, well, wasn't that generous, a whole extra day? So, this week at the high school, while there's a special election, and we're a polling place, and all the damn roads are closed down, so you can't even get to it, and there's 2-a-day footballs, and there's a marching band camp, and there's cheerleading camps, and freshman orientation is tomorrow, and I have scheduled pickups. Hundreds and hundreds of people in and out of there every day, and we have porta potties at the high school. And again, because they decided to shut down a line on Mink for ODOT, whatever. No communication. So I understand Mr. Fox had an event at the fair that he had to be at tonight. So he's not here to answer to any of the issues that we've had, but I did find out that the water district gets a 5% raise a year on that board. That was set in motion years ago, automatically 5% raise. So, needless to say, I'm over it. I was against my better judgment to vote for that, and here we go. So, and honestly, I feel like I'm the only one screaming about anything that's going on the west side of town. So my frustration is I'm exploding. So I've just started sending people directly to Mr. Fox. I'm giving out a cell phone number every chance I get. And to the water district for that matter. Lee Conkle said to me on the phone, I've not had one complaint. Said, they don't know you exist. They think they're on city water. And he said to me, that's fair. So this is, you guys, I don't understand this. We have a water district that we have, no recourse, who governs them? How does this go? This is ridiculous. The most densely populated area with traffic from 161 and Beach is closed, and we can't even get an hour notice that they're gonna close down Summit completely? Something has to be done. Something has to be done. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I'm working on it. And because I'm telling you, I've suffered it, but I have people everywhere I go. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And now I'm in the high school, and I have to use a porta potty. I mean, are you kidding me? And so, you guys, this has been going on for a couple of weeks. This is the first time we've met since everything's happened. So you get to hear my frustration, and you need to know what's happening because, I'm the West Side, I'm the Ward 2 rep, but there's, wards that lack, there's at-large, we have people everywhere. And while these aren't our projects necessarily, it is our city, and these are our residents that are suffering because of what's going on. So the least that we owe them is some information. So Lee has promised me in the future that he would include BJ and me on every email. But that would mean that it has to be generated or in advance and thought out. BJ?
And I will say, I told Lee that I'm gonna be reaching out to him every week to say what impacts are gonna be with these projects. So, we can share that with council and also with the residents. And, told him
Yeah.
keep hearing every week.
Yeah, I actually found out about this project because one of the local farmers who had his nose glued to everything that was happening because it was affecting his farm contacted me and said, hey, can you come out and we met with Lee and met with the farmer, but had no clue that this was happening like in 2 days. And they're storing pipe and they're getting ready. It's like, when's this project starting? Monday. Are you kidding? That's our main detour route for Mink. Oh my God.
What we're talking about here is, okay, so when you do something like this, there's boil orders that go in effect and everything else. How do you notify a resident that there's a boil order? One of our own police officers said, I found a tag in my yard several days after something had expired.
Yes, Kathy.
One of the tools that we've used in the past that has been very effective is our right-of-way permit, where these type of things can be spelled out, who they contact, how much notice, that type of thing. And
They went through all the. And they went through the process to get a right-of-way permit, so they did get one issued to them.
Alan and I've talked
It's
to.
just the lack of,
So, sorry.
No, I just wanted, I think we should, as the city's response to their complaints we see on Facebook, the complaints we see on our Facebook page, that we should do what I've been doing, is give them Mr. Fox's home phone and cell phone and email address, and say, this is the representative from the city of Pataskala who's responsible for this, for the, on the water board, contact him and direct your effort, your comp at him, because it's the water district is doing this and not the city, even though they're imposing this on the city.
I think a fair question is, why isn't our representative to the district here more than once a year, letting us know what's going on?
Or the fact that as much as I have had to reach out, I've had to reach out to others, I get a 2-sentence email from him that's snide. So, you know, he can have his personal issues with me. I don't care. Whatever. But he has a job to do and he's not doing it. And he's getting paid to do it. And he's getting raises while he's not doing it. And there's talk of raising the rates on the west side of town that the residents have no idea about while they push their lines north. So this is, I'm over it. I'm telling you, this is, I'm trying not to get myself too in the red in the swear jar. So, but you guys need to know, because I'm not gonna be quiet, and I'm not playing footsie with somebody either. Like, stuff, if people have to come in here, if they have to go to the I mean, they have their meetings at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, every 4th Tuesday of the month. How in the heck is a normal person supposed to get to a meeting like that? For them to sit in a room and decide what? Because their minutes are nothing. I mean, the minutes are, you have no idea what goes on in those meetings. But I urge council to please, I need some assistance with this. And I'm grateful for all of the things that are happening. I'm so happy the trail's going in. I think that the updates to Mink are gonna be fantastic. The whole water line, according to Lee, you know, he and Dr. Wagner are very good friends, because Dr. Wagner's been pushing for this water line to the new school. I said, oh good, then why didn't you call your BFF and tell him that you're gonna close the road down? Or shut off the water to the high school, because it's not exactly like I can boil water out of a fountain for 500 football players. Or want to share a porta potty with them. So, my reign is over, but it's not the last time you'll hear it. I'm sure.
I think the point about Mr. Fox not being here is well taken. I don't, if council desires it, you could always, if you want those answers before school starts, we could, I did text him today when he told me he couldn't be here, and I said, will you be at the next meeting? And he said yes. But if you want him here earlier, I think that's council's prerogative if they choose to call a meeting and ask him to attend. And, you know, there may be some answers that come out of that directly relate to the questions that you've got. But that's, you know, obviously that would be, we'd have to check schedules and stuff. I can tell you that I am gonna be gone, not that I have to be here for it, but if that's the desire, we can move forward towards possible.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just curious, if they're going to do a project like that, I know Andy said they did the right away from it, but there's gotta be some type of cooperation logistically at least to know what's going on over there, so that Taylor Road, Summer Road, Main Street aren't all under construction at the same time. So can they just come in and do their thing? Or is there a process that they have to come through us and these things are coordinated? That just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think there's a couple issues here. One is lack of communication of closing down roads. And a good example of that is last week we got half-hour notice that someone was gonna be closed down, and it was just gonna be, hey, we'll close it down, people can sit and wait until we open it back up. Well, we ended up paying to have public service personnel at the north end and south end of that to make them, you know, to tell people where to go with that. The Mink Street project has been 5 years in the making, and the Taylor Road Trail has been 5 years in the making. I think coordination would be a tremendous thing, as far as start dates and everything, but didn't have those.
Well, let me stop. So they call a half hour or whatever a day, whatever the time is that's short notice, and say, hey, we're gonna be digging up Summit. We already know these other projects are going. Can we say no? We can't right now. Like, or can we have a say, hey, why don't we do it at
Sure you
another
can.
time?
You can say,
Absolutely,
you
we
say
can
do it
say
at
that.
night. I mean, so
That's what I'm
my-
asking.
So,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna vent a little bit, because,
Let Tommy finish and then you can.
No, that was,
yeah.
well, you kinda answered my question, because, can we do it at night? Can we do it?
We can.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that's just, there's so, I've got,
Go ahead, I'm done.
well, no, I understand, believe me, with the water district, absolutely. But we had review process on this. We knew when our projects were happening. I mean, we've gotta kind of look introspectively to how this came about. Because we could have said, no, do it at night. We could have said that easily, and we didn't. So I'm not saying that there's a lot of good, I think there's some good things that can come out of this discussion. When we go through a review process of right-of-way permits, it has to be looked at, I think, a little bit more in depth to say, what are the things, what's your schedule, what's your MOT, what are you going to do during this? You have to ask those questions, and if we don't ask those questions, then we're kind of at fault.
Well, and
We're kind of at fault also.
I'm gonna add this because I know you guys hear me talk about the schools and go on all the time. This isn't just about the district and administration. We're
It's the
talking
tip
about
of the iceberg.
we're talking about school buses and thousands. I have 1,300 kids at the high school alone. There's only a couple ways to get to the high school. So there's hundreds, thousands of little kids on school buses all over the city. There's parents who are waiting at bus stops to either have them picked up or take them back off the bus. There's so much coordination that goes on across the board. There is no partnerships. And ever since I've been on this council, I have been like, we need partnerships. Without them, no matter what we want to do, corporate parks, development, zoning, whatever you talk about, it's not going to work. Because if we don't have a partnership with the people in this community and if we don't work together, it's never going to happen. So this is a classic case of the transportation department found out about the road closures from me. Last Wednesday. So during the day, I'm on the clock at Heights. And you can ask anybody out there, I stay away from my city hat as much as possible. But stuff like this starts happening, people are staring at you. I'm like, well, I might know somebody to call. And then it all starts.
Embarrassing.
It is embarrassing, especially when you don't know what's going on. And so, but it's more than that. It's asinine that we have school starting, but you're doing construction on the road where there are 3 schools and a district office.
They had 3 months to get it done.
And there has been no communication with the school district about it. So now we're going into the beginning of the school year. And they're like, well, it doesn't start for a couple weeks. No, I hate to tell everybody, but school starts long before the first day of school. There's a whole lot that goes on. So I'm just, when you're in it, when you've been doing it for 4 years, you've been saying the same thing, and you feel like you're just digging your rut deeper and deeper. Because no, but you're just spinning your wheels in place. Because we have the same problems every time we come up on an issue. Oh, because there was no communication. There was no communication. Quite frankly, I don't care if it was internal, external. There's no communication. And honestly, no. He left this council, begged to leave this council to be on that board. Hasn't been in here, twice? So, at least Larry Mead would come in and tell us what was going on. At least he talked to us. We've heard nothing. So, I don't know. It just feels like a never-ending losing battle. But we're at it again. So there is currently today emails going around because I think, quite honestly, people are sick and tired of hearing from me. And if that's the only reason they talk to me, then that's fine. I don't care. That's okay with me. But there are some substantial issues over there that are, and that whole Summit Road is, and now, the Mink Road water line, because that's directly related to the Summit Road line project. All of that, it's some crap. So, I was gonna tell everybody, it's hard to be nice after that, but Michael graduates from basic training on the 16th. Family Day's the 15th, so I appreciate anybody who sent him letters and communicated with him. He made it through the forge or whatever. And so we should be leaving to see him. That's why I won't be here the week of the street fair.
Good for you.
Or the first week of school. Because I'll be in South Carolina for my child, so that's exciting, and I just wanna share that, cause you know, he, even when he tells me, he's desperate for any sort of news, so even council is exciting to him. So, bless his heart, right, he's desperate. That's all I got.
He's heard about the water line.
Oh, he heard about it. He gave me advice about how to handle it too, by the way, so.
Well, congratulations. Suzanne?
I have nothing. Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second by,
Mr. Powell.
Mr. Powell. Discussion and roll.
Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Yes.
Barstow, Hayes.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
I was done.
Yeah.
We were going the same place, so it didn't matter. See everybody, have a good week.
Misogyny. But tell us.
Oh, yeah.